Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about Roy Halladay's death, an unfortunate death. We're also going to talk about Mark Cuban going at it with Draymond Green about the word owner, and maybe get to what Cleveland Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon talked about in his interview with GQ. So, right off the bat, we're going to talk about Roy Halladay and his death, an unfortunate death. He died in a plane crash in the Gulf of Mexico. And I just got finished watching the video that was posted. Some guy actually caught him right before the plane went down. It was described he was flying this plane erratically, going up and down.
So wait, he was flying the plane himself?
Yeah, it was like a two-seater plane.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole like airliner plane.
Oh.
No, it was a two-seater plane. He had just gotten his pilot license a few years back, and he bought an Icon A5 as part of the plane's marketing campaign, and he was one of the few to actually get it. Roy Halladay was only 40 years old. He played Major League Baseball for 16 seasons with the Blue Jays and the Phillies. Spent most of his career with the Blue Jays, 8 All-Star selections, 2 Cy Young Awards, a no-hitter, and a perfect game with the Phillies, actually coming in the same season. He's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame. He Hall of Fame eligible in 2019. But he went down in this plane crash, and there's not much information out right now. Just that this video that was obtained by TMZ Sports is showing what was going on right before the crash, and then it showed kind of the aftermath. The plane is upside down. It's in pieces. I read that his body was found floating near the shore.
Aww.
I'm not sure the distance in between where the plane crashed and where his body was found, but he seems to be the only one that died in this crash. He had 2 kids and a wife. He was only 40. Sad.
That's like a lean because he's 39.
It's crazy. But I saw this notification on Tuesday when I was at work, and I think I saw the notification came to my phone.
Snapchat.
It came to my phone like hours before I went to work, because this happened around noon on Tuesday. And I guess I just didn't pay much attention to it, and then when I saw it while I was at work, my stomach just kind of dropped, because it's just one of those deaths that you're not like ever expecting. Like, that was the same with the Jose Fernandez death. He was only 20-something years old, and he died in a boat accident. And then the Yordano Ventura death, he died in a car crash. He was only in his 20s. So when you see those deaths for these young guys, and all 3 of those guys are pitchers, but the difference is Halladay was retired. But when you see these deaths, especially these young guys who are just like starting, and they had potential, like, it just makes your stomach drop and you can't believe it. But same thing with Roy Halladay. I couldn't believe it, and there is now stories coming out that a news sports radio station in Boston, two afternoon hosts, their names I don't remember, they host for Boston's 98.5 The Sports Hub, Tony Maserati and Michael Felger. They made some crude comments about him, saying he was a moron for flying a plane.
Hey.
And he got what he deserved because he put himself in danger.
That's totally uncalled for.
And he was an idiot because he has 2 kids. And it's like, a lot of people are getting their pilot's licenses nowadays. And this guy, he's wanted his pilot's license since he was playing, but his contract wouldn't allow him to do that because that puts him in a dangerous situation, which is understandable. But this guy is free and retired, and a lot of people fly planes. You know, like athletes take up these huge like hobbies after retirement because it's something they weren't even allowed to think of doing while they were playing.
Right. So like they got the freedom now.
Yeah. So he got his pilot's license after he retired. And I don't see any problem with that. So
I don't either.
You're calling out a guy who just passed, and we don't even know what happened with the plane. It could have been a whole mechanical error on the plane's part. We don't even know.
I don't know, but to call a person out that's already dead, that's wrong. You're supposed to let them rest in peace. You know, you should have said the shit you
it's
had
not
when he was
even
alive.
It wasn't even just one side. It was both of the guys. Both of the guys had the same opinion, that he was quote unquote a moron and he quote unquote deserved it because he was an idiot, because he was a father of two.
No one deserves that. It
Nobody,
happens.
no. And there's audio. There's an article on Yahoo Sports about these two guys, and I'm gonna link it. And there's a SoundCloud audio clip that was caught by a website called Awful Announcing, and I have not listened to it yet, but it's about 11 minutes long. I'm going to listen to it eventually, but it's probably just going to piss me off more. But also in the article, they pick out kind of the worst parts of the audio. So if you can't listen to it, you could still see the actual quotes of these two guys, and it's just terrible what they think they can say about somebody who lost their life, and then say, you know, like, try to take defense of the kids because the kids are still young, but in actuality it's just probably going to hurt them even more because they're calling their father an idiot. So it's unfortunate that he had to die at 40 years old. Like, this guy could have still been playing baseball.
Right.
Like, he only had a 16-year career. That's you know, a long term, but some guys play like 20 years. He could have still been there, but he decided to retire, and he's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame, and it kind of makes my stomach drop. The first baseball game I ever played, I had an Xbox, and MLB The Show isn't made on Xbox, so I had another baseball game that was made by 2K. It was MLB 2K, like 13 maybe, 12, whenever the last one that they made.
Right.
For 2K. And I made a picture for, you know, like your individual player, and I made a picture, and my pitching motion was Roy Halladay's. That was the first time I ever played a baseball game, and he's the pitching style that I chose, and it worked out great for me. And so it's just, I remember him as with the Phillies. I didn't really think about him as a Blue Jay, but he spent 12 out of the 16 seasons with the Blue Jays, and he retired as a Blue Jay in 2013. He signed a one-day contract to retire. So that's the Roy Halladay story. That happened on Tuesday, and so we're going to move on from that, go to the next thing I have. And I was reading sometime last week about Draymond Green. This happened after the Bob McNair, Texans owner, coming out with those inmate comments. We talked about this on the podcast. Bob McNair came out with these inmates running the prison comments at an NFL owners meeting, and Draymond Green took exception, and he took exception specifically to the word owner, and his perspective was that it was all about perception to these people. And to me, this whole story that I'm about to explain comes down to culture. Like, this is just where culture is at nowadays. And people's perceptions nowadays, they don't know what to perceive things as anymore when it comes to huge issues like this, because people think they have perception, and maybe they do. But at the same time, it's a somewhat, in my opinion, a blind perception on things, because I don't think people are as educated as they think they are. I don't think people take the time to be as educated as they think they are.
Yeah.
And they probably should be. and they just fight on these topics based on what headlines they see. I've always thought this as someone who's going into journalism. I think this a lot. It typically makes me think less of people and the society. But this story, Draymond Green took issue with the Bob McNair comments about the inmates running the prison, and he posted on Instagram something about the perception of the word owner when it comes to league owners, whether it's in the NBA, the NFL, MLB, NHL, and that maybe we should look and start to think about cutting out the word owner and maybe just start using the word chairman. Now, chairman...
What's the difference?
Nothing. Really. Nothing. Chairman is like the head guy.
Mm-hmm.
Owner, head guy. You know, there's really no difference. They're synonyms of each other. And sometimes they are referred to as that. But usually when you talk about ownership, you usually say the word owner, like
right.
The owner of this guy. Because there is a slight difference. When you say the chairman of the Houston Texans, some people might not think.
See, when you say chairman, I guess I'm thinking more like a supervisor, and then
like
an owner is like the
to
owner.
Me, chairman is like the president, and you can have a president of football operations or baseball operations or hockey operations,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like the guy who works. That's like the guy right above the general manager. It's like owner, president, general manager, coach. Basically,
okay. I see that.
You do have assistant general manager and assistant president, but in general, that's kind of how it goes.
Okay.
So when I think chairman, I think president, kind of. I don't think owner. Now, his whole argument was, the typical owner people can perceive as like these guys own the employees.
Is that not what an owner is?
Now, yes and no. No, mostly, because an owner, he puts money into this organization,
mm-hmm.
and he puts money into the players. He pays these players. He doesn't own them.
So he's just like a sponsor.
Yes, but if Draymond Green is gonna say owner is a bad word to use because it perceives a negative perception,
mm-hmm.
Obviously he's talking slavery. Slaves didn't get paid.
Obviously,
they got beat, and this guy, your chairman, is paying you to make this team and organization good and win championships. I don't think people's perception when they hear owner is, oh, well, that guy, he's the white guy who owns all these players.
Yeah, no, I don't think that. For me, when I think owner, I think like the guy that has the name of the team or something.
He's the guy that puts all the money into this team. When the general manager needs to go sign somebody, he goes to the owner and says, can I have this money?
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that says, yes, I'll give you this money to go get this guy. Most of the money that goes into building a team is coming out of the owner's pocket. That's why you'll see some cheap owners, like there have been instances of cheap owners. There's a good book called The Best Team Money Could Buy, by Molly Knight. She covered she still covers the Dodgers, but she covered the Los Angeles Dodgers for a few years, and I have this book. I've started to read it so many times. I haven't finished it, though, and she explains at the beginning of the book about how the Dodgers transitioned from this really cheap, crappy owner to an ownership that changed everything.
Right.
And this is the year where it really came out because the Dodgers made it to the World Series.
They didn't win, but they made it there.
No, but their next step is to win. They're division champions 5 years in a row. World Series this year. They're going to get it. It will take time. It probably should have happened by now, but they will get it. But Mark Cuban the NBA owner of the Dallas Mavericks, took exception to this, and he said, that's BS. I own equity in this company. I worked my butt off to get to where I am. I don't own my employees. I own equity. Mm-hmm. And my equity is in this organization. I don't own you. I put money into you so you can go out and win championships. Mm-hmm. So for you to put a negative connotation behind the word owner, like I'm the master of all these people, is very conniving. Mm-hmm. And Mark Cuban said he should apologize for this. It was wrong of him to do that. And when I read this article on Yahoo Sports, this guy was the writer was kind of taking it from both sides, as a journalist should.
Right. And
he was saying Draymond Green is not wrong. Culture today, society today, will take things in very bad context, even when it shouldn't be. They will take things out of hand, even when it's not that big of a deal. To call somebody the owner of the Dallas Mavericks or the Golden State Warriors is like, come on, people. Don't take it out of context. He's the guy that has sole ownership in the stake of this organization, mm-hmm. not individual people.
Yeah, no, that's... I don't know where the heck that came from.
So, and he was saying, Draymond Green is right because perception is everything, and people don't perceive things the right way anymore because everything is so overthought. Nobody is very educated on things because they don't take the time to. They just want to read the headlines and say, yes, that's right, or no, that's wrong, or blah, blah, blah. And he was also saying Mark Cuban is right, too, because you don't own individual players.
Right.
You own basically a company. You own a part of the NBA, basically, because mm-hmm. you own an individual team. And you put money into this organization. And there's nothing wrong with being called an owner because that is what you are. You own something.
Right.
You are the guy who puts the money.
You don't own the people, but you...
No, you pay the people.
Right.
You don't own them, though.
I want to know who would have this perception that the owner owns the people, though.
It's culture today. It's part of the culture war that is going on. People want to be like...
Yeah, but like I said, whenever you talked about stuff like this and you said the word owner, I thought, okay, the guy that, the head honcho, the one who owns the name and...
Right, but he's not like, if you don't do this, then, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not about to bust a whip. I never thought that an owner is about to bust a whip.
Any player or coach can get up and say, I'm done. Mm-hmm. There are contracts that need to be taken care of, but a player can sit out. A coach can resign. And contracts will be taken care of. They are bound by a contract, but so are other, it's not just sports.
Right.
Contracts exist everywhere.
The whole world is a business.
Exactly. If you have a part-time job, you might not have a contract, but if you have a career, you probably have a contract.
You could say that we do have a contract because we're supposed to be there at a certain time. Otherwise, there are consequences. So it's not a written one, but I guess technically it's like a social one, I guess.
Right. But, we get paid the same thing as everybody else unless, to start out at least. But we're not, bound by like a 4-year contract and supposed to get, our wage is based on how many hours we work a week. Mm-hmm. Players' wages are based on, they're already set to go. Like, they already know how much money they're making in a year. We don't know how much money we're going to make in a year. We don't even know our schedule 3 weeks from now.
Right.
They do. And they know how much money they're going to make a month, a year. I just thought, I took the side of Mark Cuban. I saw the side of Draymond Green because it's true. Perception is everything to people. People perceive things for what they're not. And it's most likely going to be negative. But you got to step back and be like, owner.
Person that owns the name.
yeah, if you're the guy who says owner, oh my God, we can't say owner because that means he owns every individual person that works for that team.
Mm-hmm.
You got to step back and say, am I serious about this? No, you can't be serious. So we're going to move on from that. And Josh Gordon of the Cleveland Browns, he's back in the league. He went back to the practice facility some few days ago. And he gave an interview to GQ about his habits before all these suspensions caught up with him a few years ago. He's been out of the league since 2014. He only played a few games in 2014 before he was suspended for the rest of the season. Then he was suspended in 2015 and 2016. He tried being reinstated a couple times. He was denied, but he was recently just accepted back into the league by the commissioner. And in this GQ interview, he basically told that he was high or he had been drinking before every game, and this had gone back a very long while. And he said when he would get drug tested, he knew that he had a few days to clean himself out. So basically, after he got drug tested, he would go and do whatever he did, whether he smoked or drank.
So he went to binge after he took each test.
Right, and he said there was probably never a game where he wasn't buzzed or high in any sort of way. And that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I am not a fan of Josh Gordon. I wish him the best. At the same time, I kind of wish he would just go away from the NFL. He's still a young kid. He has every right to try to get his life together, and I hope he does. There's no reason not to be a fan of him if he picks himself up. But he's one of those guys where it's like, can you ever just learn? Where is your head at? You were suspended once for the drugs. You were suspended twice for the drugs, and you were suspended again for the drugs. Like, come on. What is if it's an addiction and it's ruining your chance at millions of dollars because you're a special talented athlete, you need to get help.
Yeah.
It would take...
If I had the ability to make that kind of money, ain't no way I'm fucking it up with drugs.
It would take so much less time to walk away from football for the rest of the season, for a partial of the season, to go get help than it would to get suspended for 2 seasons in a row.
Now,
because you didn't want to go
fans
help.
Of him?
I'm sure he still has fans. I know his coach, which wasn't his coach when he was suspended a few years back, his coach now is saying that he has every right to go back on the field and get his career back, and so does the NFL, because obviously the NFL supports him because they brought him back in the league. But if he screws up one more time, it's got to be over for him.
Like, I'm always one person to say, you can get a couple of chances at life and get your shit together. But at this point, consecutively fucking up with the same mistake should be a really huge eye-opener and be like, look, I need to stop.
And this is because whether he has an addiction, which he likely does. You don't get suspended 3 times for the same thing
and not
because you don't have an addiction. He had an addiction, but he took for granted his lifestyle, and he took for granted the fact that he had the ability to make millions of dollars.
And I'm pretty sure they can always replace him with some other guy.
Well, they did. He hasn't been playing the last 2 years.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That should be an obvious, if I'm clearly replaceable, I better get my shit together so that way I can get my ass back and steal my spot.
And whether or not he was replaceable, he was playing for the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns are just they need help.
That's not the point.
They need more help than him. No, well, he needs a lot more help. But what I meant to say was,
they already fucked up.
They need more help, just like him. So he gave this interview, and this was with GQ. Let's see. he said he quoted that doing this would work around the system, and I said, when I read that, I'm like, how are you working around the system if you have been suspended? Like, you gotten caught. You don't work around the system if you're getting caught. And he only played 5 games in 2014, like I said, and he was denied reinstatement a couple of times, but he was out in 15 and 16. And he said he quit for himself. He didn't want to quit for anybody else. He's a dad now, and he quit for himself. Good for him. But usually, I don't care who you quit for yourself. You don't have to quit for one person. Quit for your wife, if you have one. Quit for your girlfriend. Quit for your child. Because your child, like, if this is going to be your career, your child you're probably going to want to put some money towards your child. Mm-hmm. Usually that's what players do. They put money because they have been blessed with this job that gives them millions of dollars, and they can put their kids through school, because most parents want to do that for their kids. Like, that's the one thing today that parents think about is, how is my kid going to get through school? Is he going to be one of those kids that puts himself into a bunch of debt because he has to? Or am I going to be blessed like athletes are? And they don't think this, but like athletes, I'm blessed enough to be paid, $5 million a year. And that's more than enough to put my child through college. And if I can pay for our child to get through college, I would do that in a heartbeat.
And in my situation, being that it's too many kids, we don't have that kind of money.
And that's usually how it works with big families. It's like, it would probably be different for
if it was just like 5 of us before the twins and Stefan, we might be good.
Yeah.
We could at least give me, let's say, $10,000 for my college, but we can't. Now, if any of us, like if Aline was, a professional electrician or some sort of athlete, like we would all be set for life.
Right.
Like we would have our own college fund, which is ideal. Mm-hmm. Like when we have a kid, I hope that at some point we have a college fund for them, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, yeah, I didn't have a college fund,
Neither did I.
And that's not, I don't even know if parents are setting up college funds nowadays, but we go to community college for the first 2 years, and honestly, the financial aid system has worked in my favor so well that
you get a decent amount back.
They're giving me checks of what I don't use at the end of the day. So why go to a college where I have to take money out and be in debt at 19 years old when I could just go to community college, get the same degree, and also get paid what I don't use in financial aid?
And no, but it's always that, because that's why, for me, I didn't want to go to community college. I wanted to go to university, because it's also the name, Yeah. Once we get that degree and let's say I apply for Fox, and then they review what school I went to and all that. It's like, oh, you went to some random ass community college and then you went to a university. Was this university a really good university? Like, let's say Loyola.
Yeah.
Like, it's also the name that goes with it.
I get it. But I think we're in a time where community college is trending higher than it had been. So I think that connotation is kind of going away now.
Yeah, I can see it.
And I hope it is, because I was always like that too, where I was like, community college. I never
had anything against community colleges. But
like,
for me, it was like Loyola would have been my community college, and my school was partners with them. When I came out here, it kind of felt like Moraine was like a secondhand Loyola.
Yeah.
That's just me personally.
I like this college. I like where we're at.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I'm doing perfectly fine. It doesn't feel very overwhelming. But at the same time, I still, I guess, am a hypocrite of that negative connotation of going to community college, because I won't wear apparel from this college because I guess it says community college. And, it does seem like that natural decision for people who go to school around here to come here, because it's easy.
Right, but with the whole, like, in high school, the only reason why I wore the school name was because it was a requirement. that was our uniform. We had to wear this shirt.
In high school, I'll wear high school stuff.
I have nothing from Shepherd except for my ROTC gym shorts and t-shirt, and that I don't even wear. I got that shirt from Ball State from when I went to go visit it. I don't wear it. Like, I'm not one to wear an actual school's name.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even want to go to a school's game. Why am I going to wear their name?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. About the whole... I feel like some people do wear it because, you know, depending on what school you go to, you know, I feel like a lot of people that go to those big universities, they're like, oh, my university is better than yours, so I'm going to wear the name to prove it to you.
Yeah.
But, like, here is just... A lot of people just want to do it because I guess they like the name or whatever. I just never found that appealing to me.
I get it. All right, guys, this is the Friday episode. We're going to end it here. We're recording tomorrow for the regular Monday episode for the Alleged Podcast. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe.
Comment,
follow YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, the Alleged Podcast, or actually Alleged Network. And like or follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
Snapchat.
And watch out for everything we post. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.